Hello, 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 Gordana. It's so lovely to meet you. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I was so excited for this one. Honestly, maybe a little bit too excited.
The feeling is 150% mutual.
Oh,
150%.
I love
Okay.
that.
So you are co-founder at Workello, which is a platform, and correct me, I love corrections, but it's a platform that helps people onboard writers, but not just any writers. That helps them kind of vet and have qualified writers so that they can kind of just streamline that process, get to like the writers that can actually do the job well and efficiently, and it's all in one platform.
That is exactly right. So obviously we started as a like hire writers platform, and all our marketing is still very writer oriented. But basically, we are a pre-hire assessment platform that allows you to, as you said, source and assess and test the writers and hire the top 1%, because obviously content is super important. You can't just go out and hire anyone. I mean, you guys know you kind of have your database of vetted writers and all that good stuff, and your course, obviously. So we're not doing any courses, but we're kind of testing people on their knowledge of whatever type of content they're supposed to write. And recently we expanded to other roles. There's a huge, hiring testing library incoming. We just help automate the process because it is quite time consuming and quite messy, to be honest. So we're just trying to fight that. And so far it's been, working pretty great. I can't complain too much.
Out of curiosity, what is a timeline that people can expect, especially if they're not in a super like niche role, but like in a general idea of just trying to onboard a writer? What's the timeline with using Workello?
Yeah, so that actually really depends on how fast and ambitious you want to be. I've seen people literally hire writers in 2 days, no joke, but then you can obviously extend that process to a month or even more if you're looking for something very particular. But the thing is, when you're hiring writers or when you're hiring anyone actually, but specifically writers, the goal is always to get as many candidates as you can because unfortunately, and I mean, I remember this, I used to be a writer as well. The industry is quite saturated and kind of everyone thinks that they can write if they speak a little bit of English. They just think it's so easy. And, people apply for jobs all the time. It's not illegal. So typically you get a lot of candidates who never even wrote anything before, or maybe they overestimate their skills a little bit, which is fine. You just need to have a way to filter through those people quickly and really focus on the candidates that are actually amazing and that actually want to work with you. That's pretty much what we do, and we help people accelerate that process to, hopefully shorten it to maybe not 2 days, but it definitely can be done. I recommend at least a week just to be sure.
Okay. So I mentioned that you're a co-founder.
Yeah.
What did you study to become a co-founder? How do we become co-founders? And what kind of soft skills did you have to acquire in order to be successful at what you do?
So honestly, I never thought that I would be in the position that I'm in right now.
That's
So
the best
I
part.
think, yeah. So I think 4 or 5 years ago, can't even remember how long ago it was, but I was literally a freelance writer. I studied English. I actually have a master's in English literature. So some people may call that a useless degree. Actually, a lot of people do that.
Well, you showed them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it is because, it obviously, I'm like not a native English speaker or anything like that. I'm from Serbia. It's a country in Eastern Europe. We have no ties to the English speaking world. So I think the degree definitely helped get me in the kind of content world. And then from there, I actually started working with my now co-founder. I was his editor and kind of climbed that ladder a little bit. And at one point, it was 2021 summer, we were just struggling so much. We were actually running a pretty huge hiring cycle. And, you kind of have a little breakdown here and there. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. This is just so stressful. My inbox has 1,000 emails. Can you just make something to make this easier? And so we started making this tool, and it was like, oh, okay, this is not bad. Maybe we should, make it public. So I literally stumbled into this role. I'm not sure what the other people do to get here, but I never expected it in a million years. But as far as soft skills go, I think just it's very important to have compassion for the people that you work with. And as an employer, which is something that I, definitely never was before I started working with Nick and Buen, I was also on the other side and really felt how some companies just ghost you and never get back to you, and the hiring process was really bad. So I think the number one thing for at least for me, was that to insert that compassion for the candidates in the tool that we're building. So it's not just making it easy for the employer, but also it's very, very important for me that the candidates actually have good experience. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I think the fact that you've been on the other side, you've been on the writer's side, you've been on the side of like trying to find jobs and reaching out to people and then not hearing back, and that disappointment and having to stay motivated. I think adding that transparency to the process and making sure that both the employer and the potential employee are both equally well treated is super important. And it's really great that Workello keeps that in consideration.
It is. And I really, whether you use Workello or not, which you should, but whether you use it or not, I think the number one thing that you can do if you are looking for really great candidates, no matter the role that you're hiring, is just investing a little bit more time into the actual hiring process and that candidate experience. Because the top 5% of people, like you, I'm just so impressed with kind of everything that you do here, and you're so good at organizing this thing and just content in general. I can't imagine you going through some horrible process where you're treated like a, disposable person, pretty much. You probably wouldn't be interested in that. So you would want to work with a company that actually respects your time and kind of respects you as a person. So whatever tool that you use, just invest in candidate experience, and I promise more amazing candidates will definitely get into your pipeline.
That's amazing. And thank you for that. Thank you for the kind words. Your check is in the mail. But I think that if you are working in a really busy company and you know that maybe you don't have the capacity to invest in, like you said, the candidate experience, finding a tool that has it built in is a way to kind of work around that in the meantime, instead of just forgetting it altogether.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of people, as you said, people are busy, especially if you're kind of, if you're bootstrapped, if you're maybe a smaller company. I don't know, even if you're a bigger company, things take so much time to change in enterprises. Definitely having it built in helps a lot. And then you can always build on top of what you already have and, come up with new ideas and fun onboarding or anything like that. So, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And I love an origin story. So basically, this amazing tool came out of the fact that you had a need, you were overwhelmed, you're like, this can't continue like this. And that's similar to Surfer, because Surfer started as like an in-house tool that kind of just helps solve a problem. And then it's like, hey, maybe we should make this public. Other people might also get some use out of this. And then there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think if you are building something, you should be your own customer, honestly. Because if you are, you should be your biggest power user, and just figure out what you need is probably what other people need as well, if you are working on any particular thing. And that's exactly it, Everything comes out of some kind of necessity. And I think those tools are also ultimately the ones that will develop the fastest and, win the game, or whatever the terminology is. So I'm very excited to see what 2023 brings, and then moving forward, all the years to come. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so you were a writer, and you now have developed a platform that helps people find writers. What would you say separates a good writer from a great writer, and what are some ways to kind of pick up on those things quickly, because things are always moving. So how would you describe that?
Absolutely. So that's a fantastic question, actually. And I would say, a good writer, we all know what a good writer is. Depending on the niche you're in, you know what good content is, and it's very easy to recognize. And if you have a good writer, you will probably be happy with what they put out. But kind of the happiness ends there. Not that that's a bad thing, but a great writer, I believe, is someone who teaches you new things. They are constantly, going above and beyond in their research, in their writing, in their even, the self-editing process, and kind of going outside of that brief and outline that you've provided and just adding a little bit more. Also, I think a great writer has their own unique tone of voice that can also match with what your brand's branding and tone voice are. And for me and for my team, ultimately, a great writer is someone who, it's going to sound so bad saying this, but who wants to grow even further. So some of our best writers actually became our editors because they wanted to, do the content game. They decided that this is my career. I want to continue this. I love writing, but I also want to go to that next step and kind of be in a more organizational role, I would think. So some of our best editors are actually, they're amazing, obviously, but if we have a very particularly difficult piece of content, they will be the ones to jump in and do their magic on it. So they are still great writers, but they are growing constantly and learning new things. And I think just seeking out knowledge on their own, even, trying new tools and just innovating and kind of teaching you new stuff.
So a great writer is never complacent, and a great writer is always trying to find new ways to approach subjects from different angles, different perspectives, and bring something new, but also maintaining quality at the same time.
Yes, that is so beautifully said. I should have said it like that. That is exactly it, yeah.
Got it. Wonderful. So imagine I'm kind of going through it the old-fashioned way, and I'm looking through CVs and applications and things like that, and I'm constantly looking for writers for my team, and it's a process. It's a definite process. But imagine I only have 5 minutes to look at an application or a CV. Red flags, green flags, what's the best way to kind of skim through a CV of a writer?
Amazing question. That is actually something that I still kind of do. When we're running these hiring cycles, I always like to jump in and stick my nose into things. All right, so the thing that I do first is check if the writer sent some kind of a cover letter. And I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions on cover letters.
It's controversial.
Yeah, they're nobody's favorites. I can promise you they're not even the favorite from the employer side, but I think that's kind of the first thing that really pops out. And for me, I'm not looking for extremely long cover letters or anything like that, but if I can see that someone is like, hey, here's an interesting thing about me, I did this, and this, let's talk, that's enough for me to know, all right, this person obviously knows what they're talking about, they have experience in these 3 things, and I can take a look at their portfolio. If someone doesn't send the cover letter, again, that's fine for me. I will just take a look at their portfolio and try to figure out kind of what they did there. But the issue with portfolios is, and this is also a controversial opinion, I'm sorry, but I found throughout the years, I think I hired probably 100 writers at this point. I found that a lot of people fake them because, ghostwriting. I also was a ghostwriter. I never had my name on anything, and I could have easily taken someone else's work and claimed it was mine. I never did that, but, people do that, unfortunately. And so you can't really trust that, first of all, it's them. Second of all, the level of editing. I personally edited so many articles that were really, really bad in the beginning and completely missed the point. They were completely rewritten either by myself or by my content team and still published, and that I hear that someone, who was not with us anymore was using that in their portfolio because technically they did write it, but not really. So I'm a little bit careful with portfolios, and I know a lot of other people are. In those cases, I would just invite the person to take the test if I see that their portfolio is, okay, it can pass, it's nice. I definitely want to test their abilities. And honestly, it doesn't take too long when you have a set system. When I was doing it in my email inbox, it was definitely a lot slower, but if you can find any way to automate this process and kind of have everything in one place, it's going to help you a lot. And those are a couple of things that I look out for. Red flags, anyone who's trying to sell me backlinks, there's a lot of those people.
Low price of free, just get this backlink, yeah.
Exactly, that's an instant rejection. Sorry, no. Also, if people are kind of aggressive in their cover letters, that also happens sometimes.
Wait, what do you mean by aggressive? Like smug? Like overly confident? Or just like, you need me on your team? Like, what is aggressive? What's an aggressive cover letter?
Yeah, so there are those. Those are kind of funny to me. Like, I'm the best. You should hire me. I actually, it's kind of funny. I like it. But there are people who are like, I checked out your website. You can do so much better. Like, I can help you get there. But not in a normal kind of friendly way of actually trying to help someone, but, bashing other writers and kind of bashing the profession. I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Also, there are, a lot of people who are just very, self-centered. I know this. I published 10 books. So that's a little bit of a red flag for me because I don't know how collaborative you're going to be, if you will be willing to take feedback the correct way and not get offended, and just work with your editor as, a team, because any piece of content is a team effort. There's no such thing as one person working on an article and it being done. It's always a team, and you kind of have to approach it like that. So if I see, I wish I had some examples. I actually have a whole folder of screenshots. Maybe
don't we all?
Yeah. But yeah, those are kind of red flags for me, to be honest, and I don't really like when I see it.
Okay. So too many first person pronouns, too much I, me, I. When you're a little bit too self-congratulatory with your approach, that can be a red flag because, again, content creation is a group effort. It truly, truly is. So it may be a red flag of not being able to work with others really well, or just a little bit of ego thrown in there, like a little bit too much ego, thrown in there. It's so curious what you said about portfolios. So I've been a writer for more years than I'm going to say on camera. And I didn't really get into portfolios until I started doing more website copy and things like that, because with my articles I was like, oh, here's a link, or just like Google me. I don't know, I'm here, it's there. But it was so curious what you mentioned about portfolios. I never would have thought about people just kind of claiming articles that weren't their own. Tisk.
It's actually crazy. It happens so much. I don't know. It's obviously, I'm not like a writer anymore, but I'm still a very huge advocate for writers because I know how much I struggled, and it just hurts my heart when I see that. And people, like clients, companies, are becoming more and more distrustful of writers in the writing profession, and they tend to put them down a lot, which is something I don't like, especially now with, AI and everything. It's like, I can just do that with AI, and like, I don't need you. I'll do it all by myself. But maybe you can replace someone who fakes portfolios and can't actually write, but there's no way to replace a really fantastic writer. And I'm just scared that a lot of great people will have a little bit of a harder time getting roles because there's just a huge influx of candidates that are, not very great. And some of them are plagiarizers, which is very sad.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because it literally never occurred to me. I didn't do much ghostwriting. I haven't done much ghostwriting in my career, but I can see how that can be a little bit tricky. I can see how that can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, it's a whole different beast.
Yeah. Okay. So you you scaled Workello's like impressions from 0 to 1.5 million organic in 24 months. Is that correct?
Partially, it was not Workello. It was one of our clients. They're called Do Not Pay, because Workello actually started as a content agency called ContentDistribution. And we kind of learned everything about writers and content teams and hiring and everything in the agency. And at the time, we had this client. They're actually a pretty fast growing startup. They're doing amazing stuff, helping a lot of people. And we started working together with, it was literally just me and Nick, my co-founder, just the two of us and a couple of freelance writers. And, you know, with them, we managed to build a whole team and really develop all of our processes and everything. And that resulted in that 1.5 million organics.
That's
which
a
was
big
incredible.
number.
That's a huge number. That was also something that I was like, oh no, there's no way that we're going to do this, but it happened. So yeah, the way it worked, it was pretty much, we don't build backlinks. We don't deal with any of that, not because they're bad or anything, but we just don't know how to do it. We are content specialists. So the way we got to that number was literally with just amazing content and really, really good content production process. And it was a wild ride. We don't work with them anymore, unfortunately, or fortunately, who knows.
I mean, you did a great job, so it's not like
I'm happy. Left it on a high note. But yeah, it was a lot of work, but it definitely taught us a lot of things about SEO, about content production in general, about hiring, about just structuring large volumes of content, because that's kind of our play, you know, publish a lot, but publish a lot of quality content. And it was incredible. I'm so proud of that project. It was probably the highlights of my career before Workello.
That's amazing. So the whole idea behind this webinar, this event, is creating trend-proof processes. So I imagine that when you were going through this, you said it was just you, your co-founder, and a couple of freelance writers. That sounds pretty bootstrapped to me. So can you tell me just a little bit more about those processes and how you the structure, how you set things up?
Yes, absolutely. So back in the day, you know, as I said, it was just the two of us and a couple of freelancers. And I remember Nick, my now co-founder, was super annoying. He was making me write all these process docs. And I'm like, who am I writing this for? There's literally just the two of us. I can remember everything. It's like, no, you have to write it down, because when you actually hire someone, you're going to want to delegate that. And it really, that culture of building documentation became super ingrained in our organization. And I think is probably one of the reasons that we managed to scale so much, because we already had everything written down. And our actual philosophy is so simple. Excuse me. You know, we do really good keyword research. We build really detailed briefs. And we have a pretty extensive writer knowledge base that they can use with literally everything that they will ever need, from using commas to extremely complicated grammar stuff and on-page optimization that we simplified for them so that they can optimize content while they are writing it. And I know you guys are, you know, huge on content optimization and all of that. So if you are building this process, you know, if you are using Surfer, that's great. I think you need to teach your writers to do the same and document that somewhere, store it in your knowledge base, make it very, very accessible, and just link those articles everywhere. And another thing that really helped is, so my editors, when they edit content, they don't just go in and correct stuff. They actually leave comments for the writers, and they always link to the knowledge base where they can actually find the answer to their question or the rules that they have to follow. So everyone is kind of used to, at this point, just going into Slide and checking the documentation. And if you do that correctly, I think that there is no way that a Google algo update can do anything to you. We have never seen a drop in traffic ever for, you know, all the projects that we worked on. And I really think it is because of these so super solid processes that took a long time to build, I won't lie, but it was so worth it. It was just couldn't live without them.
So there are some things that we can't outsource to AI. Like there are some things we just have to do in a traditional way. It's grueling,
right.
it's time consuming, but it's kind of like meal prep. No? Like you spend a couple hours on the weekend and then like the rest of the week is just groovy. So if you
That is
spend
exactly
time
it.
if you spend time writing down every step, everything that you're doing for your future team or just even for yourself, even if your memory is superb, writing things down and then storing it all in one place that's easily accessible. You can always come back and reference that. And I really like the idea that your editors leave comments as well, because that's how you teach someone to fish. You know, it's not just about I fixed it for you or this is wrong. Both of those things, both of those situations are different, but they're not ideal. This is not right because of this, and this is where you can find it next time on your own. And it also kind of creates this like self-sufficient feeling in your writers as well, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And, I like to hire a lot of people who are maybe not super experienced writers, but they kind of want to get in the field. They're young, they're just out of college, they're looking for their first jobs. And I like working with those people, even though they don't have that experience. And I think by using this system and by having this type of editorial process, you really, teach someone who came to you as a newbie, as, a very young person who really doesn't know anything about content. And, in 6 months to a year, they're this fantastic writer who can take on anything, really. And I don't know if that would be true if an editor just came in and corrected everything that they wouldn't just learn. It would be very difficult to understand why those corrections were made. So we kind of treat it like a school. Honestly, my editors, almost all of them used to be teachers. So I think that's why they accepted it. As was I.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Wait, I'm noticing a trend. I was a teacher too. That's crazy. Okay.
So I think it's easier for them to just do that instead of just correcting someone's mistakes. And if you need good editors, hire teachers, guys. Trust me. They have the mindset.
Absolutely. And the patience. And the patience.
That is so true.
That's amazing. So I love that you give new writers a chance. And to be honest, it sounds like because of your processes, you guys are quite insulated. Like the safeguard is built in, because when you have everything written down and you have everything laid out step by step and you have the knowledge base and you have, this is how we use a semicolon. And then you have the editors there cheering them on. You have them explaining things. Not only do you have a bigger applicant pool, you probably are creating the type of writers that want to stay with you. You create that loyalty as well, because they're like, I've learned so much here. I've grown so much here. I want to stay here because they took a chance on me, and you can watch their progression as well. And I think that's so, so nice because, again, we all start somewhere. I studied linguistics. And I'm working at a SaaS company.
There you go.
life is life. But
and I'm so glad you mentioned that. I really want to share this because I'm so proud. So the actually first full-time writer that I hired, she did a little bit of writing before us, but she was an English teacher. Now she's our head of growth. And the second and third writer that I hired, one is head of operations and another one is our editor-in-chief. So their growth has been so amazing to look at. And we all kind of grew together, obviously. But, oh my God, I'm just so proud of these girls. They are fantastic. And they all started as writers. And they were all trained on this system. And obviously they developed the system with us when they started growing in their roles. So you are so right. That is literally exactly what it is. You can just develop someone's career. This sounded so bad. It's like, I'm like a career god. No. But it's just really rewarding when you see someone who started somewhere and now they're like up here and they're even better than you at what you taught them. I think for me, that was like the most beautiful thing, honestly.
That sounds like a highlight for sure. So this all happened because you wrote things down. Because you wrote things down and you had the
Yep.
foundation. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you didn't go to like ChatGPT and say, hey, write an onboarding process for me. No.
No, it was all done by hand.
Got it. Got it.
I don't know how you would do. I mean, there's probably a way to do it with ChatGPT, but there's going to be a lot of editing involved, so you may as well just write it from scratch at that point.
And I imagine your first version is not the version you ended up with. You know, I imagine there has to be some changes and some things that only you, while going through it, can do, you know. So I think updating this knowledge base and keeping it current is also a part of the process.
It is. It's always, we always have a quarterly goal of, update KB, and then everyone's just postponing it to kind of the last month of the quarter because it's a huge job. It has to be done. There's no way around it.
Yeah. So we spoke a little bit about this, but can you tell me more about what it means to empower your writers and how content managers or editors can go about doing that? Because again, this writing can feel pretty solitary, but the actual process of getting things published is very much a team effort, like we mentioned. So how do we keep the good vibes? How do we empower our writers to do their best work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's so relevant now. Everyone is remote and you're kind of double alone when you're writing. You're literally in your room just staring at the computer. There's no one around you, which is fine. I love remote work, but I understand how hard it can be. So what we, try to do is have our writers, we have this thing called pods. Not the best name, but it's basically 3 writers and their dedicated editor. And they're like a little group. They work together on a project, and they meet once a week as a pod. But also we encourage one-on-one meetings, writer to editor. So they can receive feedback, they can give feedback, they can just talk about work or life or anything like that. We also try to organize team buildings whenever we can, and there's this app called Donut. It just connects to random people on Slack.
We use Donut.
So you really, yeah, it's a great thing. It's actually an amazing thing, and I'm not as involved in the content team right now as I used to be. So there are some writers that have recently been hired, and I don't know them very well. With Donut, I actually got to know them. So I think just having that human connection is one of the ways of empowering writers, but the second and probably more important thing is showing the potential that they can achieve if they, continue working with you. And for us, that starts at the very beginning. It literally starts with a job ad. So we use something called impact job ads. I believe the Lever founder was the one who came up with the name. But it is not a typical job description, requirements, bachelor's degree, whatever, and skills, blah, blah, blah. It actually showcases the impacts that the writer or an editor, whoever you're hiring, can make in the first month, in the first 3 months, and 6 months to a year of their employment. So when you're applying for a job, you can already see, okay, this company is great because I can learn this, and this, and in 6 months I can become a senior writer or an editor. In a year, who knows where I'll be, but there's definitely room to grow there. And if someone is maybe a little bit inexperienced, they're maybe, insecure in their abilities and kind of skills, and they just want to learn more about it, they can see that in the job ads, first of all. But then the whole onboarding process, we try to make it as smooth as possible and introduce these knowledge bases kind of one by one. Because when you have a company that's very heavy on documentation, that can be very overwhelming for someone who's new. So we came up with this onboarding plan where we just give them the most important stuff first. And when the editors actually edit their content, they focus on those first, 3, 5, or 10 KBs that they have to learn and keep increasing that as they grow. So writers themselves can feel that they are progressing. They can see that in the comments that they get from editors. They can see that in the meetings, and, just shout outs from the rest of the team. I really believe that positive reinforcement is way better than punishment. And so we all try to kind of jump in and like, hey, congrats, you made it to full time, or you were promoted to a senior writer or anything like that. You know, everyone just jumps in the random channel. It's like, yay, and emojis everywhere. So it's kind of a combination of, you know, that human connection and, again, teaching someone how to do something, even if they think they know, or even if they already know how to do that. You can never be too educated, right? So, yeah. So that's kind of the approach we take, and we really try to tailor it to every single person with those one-on-one meetings and just understand where everyone is going and kind of what their ambitions are.
Hello, Danni from Surfer here, and if you're watching this little commercial break, that means you're about halfway through the webinar, and I'm curious, are you enjoying it? Are you liking it so far? I really, really hope so. So I'm here to explain to you how to claim your content editor credits and your Workello discount code. So what you're going to do is you're going to send an email with the subject +3CE to support@surferseo.com. Don't send it to marketing. Don't send it to me. It has to go to support because they have all the power. Now, there are two conditions. Number one, you have to have an active Surfer subscription. Why? Well, you can't use credits if you don't actually use Surfer. So you have to have an active Surfer subscription, and you have to tell us the email address that is associated with your Surfer account. Okay? So until April 5th, you can send an email with the subject +3CE to support@surferseo.com to claim your content editor credits. And for Workello, when you sign up, use the promo code Surfer and you'll get 20% off. It's amazing, right? It's amazing. So apart from that, Surfer's launching a pretty cool, pretty amazing AI writing tool. Now, I signed on the dotted line. I can't say too much right now, okay? I can't give away too much, but what I can tell you is if you go to this URL, you can be notified when it launches and get access to it. So check it out. Tell us what you think. It's coming sooner rather than later. All right, you guys, I'm gonna get back. Talk to me in the comments. I'm here, and thank you for being a part of this webinar. So I like that you said that it starts with the actual job description, and it sounds very similar to an approach to content marketing. So when you talked about what's going to happen in 3 months, 6 months, focusing on like the progression, the value, the like that trajectory, we kind of try to focus on content marketing on like the value for the customer, or like the transformation, the hero's journey, like what's going to happen when they use this product. Versus just, these are the specs.
Yeah, exactly. No one cares about the specs. Yeah. Just give me my results.
Exactly. So focusing on like the journey, the transformation, that's the human part of content marketing that I really, really like. Just focusing on the value and like how this is going to make this person's life better, ideally. Yeah. Or their job easier, or what have you. And then same thing with their job description. You know, you're not just reduced to these statistics. You're actually, you're able to put yourself in these potential shoes and see, okay, I can see myself walking this path with this company. What would happen in tangible, digestible amounts of time? We're not talking like in 20 years, you may be an editor. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's really important. And also the gradual introduction of the knowledge base, because a lot of startups, you know, we're kind of just, what do they say? Building the plane in the air. Is that the analogy we always use? We're building the plane in the air. So we're writing things down as we go. So like you mentioned, it can be overwhelming if you have a really document heavy company and they just drop it all in your lap at once. And you're like, so I'm going to spend the next 6 months reading. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that helps. I'm sure that helps a lot. So my question is, do you use Workello for your own recruitment processes?
Yeah, actually we do. That's, so what Workello is right now is miles away from what it used to be when we actually built it for internal purposes. It was really ugly. It did not look good, but it did pretty much the same thing. So we built this flow that worked really well for us, and yeah, absolutely. We still use it. Our head of operations is now in charge of the hiring process. But, as I said, I like to jump in here and there and just see what's going on and kind of invite people to take the test. We do use it. We are, I think, one of the biggest users. I think one of our customers beat us recently, which is amazing. I'm so proud that happened. But yeah, we use it all the time. And any of the roles that we are hiring, we just funnel everything through Workello. It's mostly writers and editors, but anyone actually that we need, we just funnel through our own system. So yeah, we use it a lot, and we kind of realized that, okay, maybe we're a little bit too focused on our process because it works so well, but other companies may not necessarily have the same hiring flow. So we decided to build these custom workflows now so that they're not live yet. They will be end of this queue, hopefully. So that anyone can kind of plug in what they already have and just make that transition a lot easier. And if our system doesn't work for them, and who knows, maybe we'll change our system completely when we finish these custom flows. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, we do use it. We obviously love it, but it's super useful because you are kind of the first one to catch any issues. And it's always better that you catch it than a customer. Mm-hmm. So we can react super quickly if anything goes wrong, which thank God, nothing went horribly wrong yet, but you never know with development and, coding. I don't know. I actually have no idea what those guys do.
HTML, CSS.
What is that?
Letters.
Letters and numbers and brackets. Not my thing.
So being able to be familiar with your own tool, using it often, and then, like you said, being able to get ahead of things just in case you see things happening that need to be addressed. It also, I really think this kind of ties in what you mentioned about writing down your processes, because the hiring process is standardized. There's very little room for, not spontaneity, because spontaneity is a nice thing, but when you want to keep things fair and standard, and you want to make sure that if someone who is part of the hiring process needs to take a couple of days off and someone has to step in to do their job, they can do that. Exactly. Because the platform and the process is already there, and it just keeps it stable.
Yeah,
which we can appreciate.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's honestly, I don't know. Obviously it's my tool, so I'm going to think the highest of it, but it really did solve, among other problems, exactly that. We used to struggle a lot, when I'm sick or something and all the candidates are in my inbox, who's going to take a look at that,
And you're bottlenecking and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And this way you're kind of taking yourself out of that and just allowing anyone on your team, obviously who is working on that, to just jump in and take over, and they know exactly what they have to do, and you just click a button. They don't have to think about crafting a million emails, because that takes a long time.
It does. You keep mentioning a test. Can you tell me about this test a little bit? Because I joined Workello, but I joined as someone who would be hiring people. Maybe my process is different. So I didn't see a test. I haven't taken a test, but I'm also curious to take the test. So tell me about the test.
Yeah. So we actually have a pre-made and pre-optimized job description and a test for the employer. So when you sign up as an employer. Obviously you can change that, you can put in whatever you want there, but we do offer our template that we personally use and have used different variations of it throughout the years. The idea behind the test, or a pre-hire skills assessment, if we want to make it sound fancy, is that there was some research done. I think it was Harvard Business Review that published this, that actually, if you are hiring anyone, really, the biggest kind of indicator of their actual skills is the assessment, not the CV, not the portfolio, not previous experience, not interview skills, not anything like that. But if you give someone a very short, concise test, and I have to emphasize it has to be short, I don't recommend sending tests that take 2-3 hours to do. We try to keep it super simple, so it can be done in 20 to 30 minutes, and it's just here's a keyword, here are a couple of things that you have to cover, bold a couple of sentences, add 2 internal links, and don't have any fluff. That's pretty much it. And everyone does the same tests if you are hiring writers or anyone else. Everyone does the same test, so you can really compare people, apples to apples, and you're not confused with, okay, this person did, best job boards in Ireland article, and this person did best cat food article. You cannot compare those two. There's no conclusion to be made. So by having everyone go through the same process, you're being super fair to all of your candidates, and it's much, much easier for you to evaluate the actual quality that you're getting back. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course, no first draft is perfect, but you can see, okay, I can work with this, or my editors can work with this, but they absolutely cannot work with this. And, and because it's the same, because it's the same text or same article or kind of a bit of the article that they submit, it's just very, very easy to determine who to hire. If you use Workello, you can absolutely use the template that we made and maybe just change the keyword or change a couple of requirements. Or if you already have one, you can just use your own. But I would say the number one thing is make it really short and easy to do, because people are not going to take 2 hours to write 1,500 words, especially if it's not a paid test. There's no way. So, yeah.
Okay, that's really helpful. So I like that the test is the same for everyone. And you said comparing apples to apples. I think that's really, really important, because we're all going to try to play to our strong suits, like it's just, you're just trying to put your best foot forward, but like keeping the test fair, even fair, so everyone can just have an actual shot at it. I think that's really, really great. Okay. So it's not how beefed up your LinkedIn profile is. It's not always about how beautiful your CV is, how beautifully designed it is. It comes down to actual performance and an actual in the context, what can you do right now in this context? I like that.
That's exactly it. And I think that, maybe some of the more experienced writers might not like this process, and, it's fine. Obviously, if you know someone who's a writer, LinkedIn influencer, that they're probably good, you can probably hire them without them taking a test. But if someone is a beginner, and, as I said, I like hiring beginners, the only way actually they can show their skills is to write this test, because they don't have a portfolio. They never wrote anything before. There's no way for them to show that except during that testing part. I think it's very important. And plus, with all the, portfolio stuff that we talked about earlier, you just don't know. So, it is a huge part of our process.
And I also like the fact that even if you are an experienced writer, humbling yourself just for a second, just to take the test, shows a bit of give and take. And I think that's the kind of spirit that you'd want to have on your team anyway. If I were to just approach this actually my work speaks for itself, I don't need to take a test. No, maybe that's not the attitude you want to have on the team. So I think it works. It's a multifaceted way of kind of vetting people.
It is. It really is. I don't think I ever had anyone who refused to do it and did my work speaks for itself kind of thing. I'm very happy about that, but you never know. It might happen. I don't know what I was doing.
It may stop people though. Imagine what if I just saw that I had to take a test and then I was just and no, and I'm leaving.
Yeah. So, that's also a good thing too. Taking yourself out of the hiring process is also a fine thing. If you just don't see yourself vibing with the way that company operates, it's not going to be a good place for you either. So you better not even work there to begin with. But I don't know. I like them because it really removes any type of bias, and really it is connected even to that job description that doesn't outline, the requirements. I'm you have to have this, this, and this, because, you may relate, as women, we may be less likely to apply to job descriptions that are overly aggressive and kind of, there are multiple studies out there how you can remove gendered bias from your job descriptions. And by having this process, this hey, this is the impact you can make, and here's a test, and everyone does the same thing, everyone is equal, and there is no way that I can favoritize, or is that the right word?
Show favoritism.
show
Yeah.
favoritism. Yeah, that's it. It doesn't even matter who you are. The only thing that matters is you are good at this and you're amazing. You're hired. That said, I do like to hire a lot of women. Our company's actually like 80% women. So
I mean,
it turns out they were the best.
They took the test and like they did well.
Yeah, they were really good. And it wasn't like a bias thing. It just happened. So yeah.
That's awesome. So we spoke about onboarding and we have to speak about the inevitable offboarding process. So my question for you is because you said you've hired maybe 100 writers in your career so far. So how do you know when it's time to cut ties with a writer, and what does your offboarding process look like? Because I know you have a process for it. I know it's written down somewhere.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things that are just instant offboarding. Like there's no chance of saving this. One of them is plagiarism. I really don't, tolerate that. No one in my company tolerates that. I'm super lucky to work with a lot of highly educated people, and they kind of drilled it into our skull, like you can't plagiarize, it's like illegal, academia, blah, blah, blah. So they all have that same stance on plagiarizing. I'm very happy about that. So instant disqualification, like there's no way we can keep working together. But if, we see that someone is struggling and not doing the best work, we develop a process. Surprise. It's called a personal improvement plan. It's actually a 2 or 3 week process where if you are a writer who's struggling and maybe the work is not the best, you work really closely with your editor for the next 2 or 3 weeks, actually. Sorry, I forgot how much it is. But they assign specific content, and then after every piece, they prioritize giving feedback to that piece of content from that writer who's struggling. And at the end of the process, a lot goes into it, a lot of one-on-ones and kind of what's going on, education, all of that. If it doesn't end up working out, we go our separate ways. If the writer just doesn't want to keep operating like this, maybe they would rather do more kind of freelancey stuff, and it's this level of structure is really not for them, which is completely fine. They may also decide to leave. And we actually, pretty much simplified the offboarding process. The goal of that personal improvement plan is to actually keep the person and for them to stay. But if that's impossible, we just tend to keep them for, let's say, another couple of weeks until they finish what they have. We pay them out. Obviously, we write them a reference letter if they need one and if they were good enough for it. And what I like to do is if someone is leaving for personal reasons or, maybe they want a little bit less structure, I always like to refer them to other people that I know, other companies that may be looking for someone who kind of prefers that type of work. So it's not a super difficult process, to be honest. It's just a matter of keeping everything clean. Like, okay, you had these 2 articles assigned, finish those, you're going to get paid for it, and, then we're going to say our goodbyes. But it really hurts a lot when someone leaves, especially if you really need them. So what we like to do is every quarter we're running a hiring cycle, whether we need writers or not. And typically we always end up needing at least 1 or 2 people. So by doing that, we're kind of mitigating that risk. Like, okay, even if someone is, leaving because they want to quit, or if they unfortunately, have to get fired, we're in the middle of a hiring cycle now, and by the end of it, we're going to have someone to replace that person. So it's just a matter of having that continuity and, ultimately keeping the team successful and safe, because we are responsible at the end, for their careers, and I can't expect my editor-in-chief to deliver amazing stuff if she doesn't have enough writers to work with her. So our offboarding process also contains an onboarding process at the same time, but just with a different person. So, yeah.
Okay. And I noticed that compassion element that you mentioned earlier about like referring people to like maybe this isn't a good fit for you, but this company might be, or this sector might be, and you kind of like usher them into the next chapter if you can.
Yeah. I mean, if they're good, it's fine. we're not all meant to be working together. I quit jobs before, so I completely understand. And if the person is amazing and you see that they kind of want to keep writing, maybe they just need something a little bit different, I'm happy to refer them to, everyone is looking for writers, so there's no shortage of places to refer a really good writer to. And it very rarely happens that you actually do get a referral, because everyone's just trying to keep the good ones for themselves. So I'm always happy to send them off to what I think is a great place, and hopefully they thrive there and they're happy.
Okay, so now I'm just curious now. So people come to Workello. People like me would go to Workello in order to find vetted writers. Now, does Workello act as the intermediary? Like, do the writers submit the content that I need through Workello? Or is it simply you put us into contact, they take the test, I decide if I want to hire them or not, and then we go, I take that writer with me? Like, what's the full process? How does it work exactly?
Okay, so it works kind of similarly to that. We actually don't have a pool of writers because I used to be on Upwork a lot, and kind of the issue with the marketplaces is that, not that they're bad, obviously you can find amazing people there, but if I have 1,000 writers and, me and my 2 co-founders post on LinkedIn, hey, we have 1,000 writers you can hire, they're going to be hired out in the next 2 days. And then if you come on day 3, I don't have those good people to offer you anymore. So what we ultimately ended up doing is, instead of creating this pool of vetted writers, is, okay, you make your own pool and you vet your own writers. So Workello pretty much acts like this. You make a job ad there, and then you can just post it anywhere you want. LinkedIn, ProBlogger, this job board, that job boards. We like Facebook groups a lot. And obviously those are, let's say, 10 different places, very hard to manage. So when you do that, when your job ads are out, you use that Workello job ad link. I don't know if you saw that, but there's a link, a unique link for every single job ad for every single customer. They post that with their job description, and then anyone who applies on any of these platforms comes into your Workello account. So they're all aggregated in the same space. So no matter where they came from, is it LinkedIn, Facebook, job boards, whatever, they're all here, and they are uniquely yours. I mean, obviously they can apply for different jobs at the same time, but no one can steal someone in your particular batch from you because they see like, oh, Danny has this one person that I really want. I'm going to contact them right now and kind of snatch them away. So you are in control of that process, and you probably get like 200 candidates or something. You can't hire all 200, so you make that pool smaller and smaller with every single step you take. First with the tests, then with the interview and all the good stuff. Obviously, you probably reject a lot of people from the get-go. And in the end, you end up with however many writers you want to hire. And it's all private, so no one can access your account. No one can see who you hired. They're not anywhere on our website, and we don't advertise other jobs to the writers that come to Workello. And a lot of them actually do. And they ask us all the time, are you a job board? Like, no, we're not a job board yet. Maybe we'll be at some point, in 5 years. But basically the point is, it's yours. So no one can take those writers away from you. And you can kind of design the entire workflow and, all the tests and interviews and everything to suit your company in particular. And hopefully in the end come out with an amazing writer.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And what do your writers do at Workello?
They write. So yeah.
They write well.
They write well. Sorry about this, but yeah. No, so as I said, we started as an agency and we saw great success there, obviously with the Do Not Pay project that went up to the millions, but we also had, I think, 4 or 5 other projects that we brought from 0 to 100K monthly organic visitors. So, we know SEO, we know how to do that well, and we're like, okay, let's do that for ourselves. And that's pretty much what the writers do. So we produce a lot of content around just in general, job seeking, job descriptions for the employers and kind of hiring guides on, if you want to hire a VA, here's a guide to do that. If you want to hire a marketer, here's a guide for that, and for all the other different roles. So yeah, their role is to, write about the platform that they got hired by, which is a little bit poetic, but yeah, they're doing an amazing job, actually. I really like our team. It's a small pod of one editor and 3 writers for now. And the rest are on the agency side, working for, other clients and all of that. But I love my Workello writers. I want more of them, honestly. So I think we're starting a hiring cycle soon, so I might get my wish sooner rather than later.
Awesome. I hope the audience takes note of that.
Apply.
Okay, so I want to move into a little bit of a discussion on AI and content creation, because it is something that's been super, super trendy at the moment, and it's got a lot of writers shaking in their boots. On the one hand, it's got a lot of people who like taking shortcuts, feeling really confident and really smug about it all. So we've got conflicting things. I think as writers or former writers, I think for me, I'll speak personally, there's a healthy level of skepticism. You want to make sure that we use AI in a responsible way, in an ethical way, and in a fair way. So what would you say are the pros and the cons of relying heavily on AI for content creation?
So yeah, as writers, as content managers, as editors, we have to be really, really responsible when we use any tool, especially AI tools that are kind of super popular right now. And honestly, I kind of doubt that most people even know how to use them very well. I think there's a small handful of individuals that actually mastered it, and a lot of the other ones are just kind of yelling about it and like, I did this with AI, So I think, one of the kind of OG tools, AI-ish tools, is Grammarly, and everyone knows it, everyone is using it, and some people swear by it. But if you are a person who's working on content production in any capacity, writer or editor, you know that you can't rely 100% on Grammarly. Now, obviously, Grammarly doesn't produce content for you, but it does give you suggestions. So if you wouldn't rely 100% on something that's actually quite simple and very defined through the years and years of, the English language and like dictionaries and all of that, I don't think you should rely 100% on any AI tool. And obviously some are better than others. Some that I've tried, I don't even know how to use them, honestly. It was too complicated for me. Some were actually pretty easy to use, and I actually today I tested your guys's, the Surfer's AI content generation tool. I'm not sure if it has a name. It was great. I can't go like too much in depth about it because I just tested it, but I think it did a pretty good job, and I can definitely see how you as a content manager can incorporate something like that into your content production workflow by educating your writers, first of all, on what is AI, how to use it responsibly, how to use it ethically, not to, trust it 100%, because you can't even trust yourself 100%. You always kind of have to go and fix a little bit of, a sentence here and there, maybe fact check some things. Same as if you're an editor, don't rely on AI only to edit your content. So there is a good way to use it. There's definitely a bad way to use it. I'm still kind of trying to figure out a process, surprise, or using it a good way. So we'll see, maybe in a month or so, I'll have more concrete thoughts, because actually my editor-in-chief is right now working on testing multiple tools and kind of figuring out where to fit that in our content production process. But definitely, just be nice. Don't just hit generate and call it a day. At least read it, edit that a little bit. there are a lot of these AI checkers, and I don't know, they're maybe a little bit pointless to me. If you know you generated something with AI, you don't need to check it because it's AI generated. But yeah, it needs a human touch, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. So writers are still going to have jobs. Their jobs may just change a little bit in the future. And the only writers that I think AI will replace are the people that really don't put any effort into their writing, and they're literally just rephrasing stuff that they see on page 1 of Google, or, I don't know, they don't speak the language very well, they struggle with that, or they just kind of are not interested in actually writing, but use it as a stepping stone to something else, which, it's fine, but I don't see a good outcome there.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit still undecided, honestly. I like that this is happening. It's finally, something exciting in the world of content. It was very much stagnant for so long, and everyone was kind of talking about the same thing. And now this new shiny toy is here, and we're all trying to play with it and, crack the code and figure out how it works. But I really think it's going to be as simple as anything content related turned out to be in the end. It's just produce good content and do a lot of it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that you got to join the exclusive beta group, the beta testers for Surfer AI. And I've also tested it myself. And what I can say is, I think, like you mentioned, you said your editors like testing out different software and tools just to kind of see how they can incorporate that into their process. I think having a process for using AI generated content. So Surfer AI basically, the difference between Surfer AI and other AI generated content tools is that we're trying to rank as well. We're not just like, hey, tell me a joke, AI, and then they tell you a joke. It's more like we're trying to create content that still kind of matches with Surfer's guidelines, that has a really great content score that's in the grain, that has the keywords that you're trying to rank for, and that content that you can edit, tailor, etc., but that you can also use to rank on Google. So I think what I would do, I would start training my writers. And when I say I would, I mean, I'm going to. This isn't necessarily a hypothetical thing, like this will be happening, but training my writers how to edit AI-generated content. So at Surfer, we would never say, okay, trust AI 100%, click the button and publish. No, we're not that type. We're not looking for shortcuts. We're looking for optimization. We're looking to optimize the process. We're looking for a bit more ease, but not a shortcut. Because for me, in my mind, shortcut almost is synonymous to lower quality, just kind of just skim off the top and then we'll just ship it out, So with Surfer AI, basically you put in your keywords like you would normally. I mean, you've used it, and then it generates an entire article with you with headings and everything. And then I would go in, of course, as the human being, and see what it came up with. You're also going to need tone and voice. Those are things that are really important when it comes to branding. If you're creating this content for a company or for your company. So my question is, do you think that writers should disclose if they've used AI-generated content moving forward? Do you think that's something that we need to be forthcoming with in terms of ethical AI usage?
Absolutely, 100%. I would recommend, if you are a writer, don't hide it. Just say it. If it's really amazing, this is just going to be another skill that you can put on your portfolio or your cover letter or anything. Hey, I can edit AI content really well. But it was written by AI. It was assisted by AI, actually. That's probably a more appropriate term. 100% I would recommend that writers disclose it. I actually had a post on LinkedIn go kind of semi-viral, if I can say that. I saw a video on TikTok. It was ridiculous. It was this lady saying I have a friend who's making thousands of dollars a month by just doing 15 minutes of work. I think that was for the shock factor, the 15 minutes, but she's he's generating AI content for his clients and they don't even know. I was shocked because that video had 150,000 likes, 2,000 comments, and everyone was agreeing with her. And I'm just here like, what? No way. No wonder why everyone is so suspicious of the entire, SEO industry and kind of content industry and thinks that they can do it themselves if you have people not disclosing that they are using AI. So 100% disclose it. It is the right thing to do. And I don't think you're going to lose anything by disclosing that. I think you're just going to gain something. And that something is, number one, trust. But number two, you can be some company's first writer who actually can use AI. A lot of companies don't have anyone on their team who knows how to use these tools. And I think, what you guys are doing is amazing. And I really like the way that your tool works. And because as you said, it does incorporate these keywords in a very kind of organic way, I would say. And if you have a writer who is able to take this piece of content and just give it that human touch and edit it to be even better, then that's an absolute win for, both sides, for the writer and for the client or the company. So yeah, disclose it. Also, if you're a company, disclose it to the writers that they're going to be using AI and editing AI. Don't just drop it on them because maybe some people are very against it, which again, that's normal. I think it happens with any new technology that comes along. People said that the internet is not going to survive, and here we are.
Here we are. We carry it in our pockets, walking
yeah.
around with the internet. No, I imagine this is going to be a debate of physical books versus e-readers. It's I'm a writer. I only write human writing versus AI generated writing. I imagine we're going to have some silly debates like that in the future. With only 50 minutes of experience using Surfer AI, how would you describe your experience in just a couple words? Just the first words that come to mind, just the actual experience of using it.
The first word is easy. That was, I think, probably the first thing I thought, okay, this is actually super easy to do. So I actually tested it on some content that we actually have to create for Workello. It was job boards in Ireland. And I'm like, okay, let's see what this thing comes up with. I added a couple of variations because we're also huge on variations when we do our keyword research. So I really liked how those variations were incorporated in the text and they were not overpowering the main keywords. And I don't know, I just loved the structure. It's pretty similar to what we typically give our writers as briefs, obviously, but then the end product is very similar to this. Obviously there are some tweaks here and there that you would have to do, maybe change the angle a little bit in a couple of paragraphs, but I don't know. I honestly think that anyone who is trying to incorporate AI into their process, definitely try it out. I'm not sure when it's going to be actually publicly available, but everyone's excited. Hopefully
we are excited.
Yeah. And the number one tip is, I had a lot of fun, but obviously I couldn't do this all day long. Train your writers, train your editors, get ahead because other people are going to do it and you don't want to be behind. So definitely, step on it and get your team in and just teach them how to use the tool, if nothing else. If they already know how to edit, if they're already pretty good with that, then I think it's just a matter of, teaching them where to click and where to place some things because it's just the easiest thing I've used, honestly.
Oh,
it sounds like an ad. It's not, but I promise.
I promise. It was really last minute. I promise. But that's amazing. I think we're going to have a lot more the pipeline from writers to editors. It might be a bit more crowded, with tools like these. And honestly, the reason I really like our AI is because I'm still trying to rank. When this is your job, when you're writing with intention and you actually have purpose and metrics and KPIs and all of those fun little acronyms that we have to use, it helps not having to worry about SEO. It's still there. It's still ever present with Surfer. So that's the reason I enjoy it. But you have to be discerning. You have to be discerning. You have to go back in. You have to be I pay even more attention to detail because, I didn't write it myself. So I'm not going to be able to guess what happens next in the sentence. So I'm really I really do laser focus in on what it produces, but that's going to be a skill. Like you mentioned, it's going to be a skill that you're going to develop as a writer as well, or as an editor. And there's new opportunities. It's not necessarily that we're competing against each other. I think we can collaborate with the AI.
Exactly. And I think, a good way to kind of how I actually see AI is a helper, not a generator. So obviously, you generate text with it, but it is there to help the writer transform that to really the best piece of content they can. And you can't always be at the top of your game. You wake up one day, you're moody, you're not creative, and I think tools like this can really help. But also, like you said, it is a new skill that I really think is going to be super, super valuable moving forward. And I'm really glad, I saw that you guys have your content writing academy. That's amazing. That is something that you can, put on your CV if you're looking for a job, or if you are an employer and you see that someone has this certificate, this person must know more about this particular tool than someone, who's not been through the process. I know the course is not about the tool, but you're probably going to come up with something similar for this new thing. I don't know. I think it's valuable. I think it's not going away. Stop hoping. It's here to stay. We just have to learn how to live with it. Sounds so negative, but it's actually not. I just think it's a new opportunity to change the game a little bit more if you're using it smartly and not just 100% relying on it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we should try to not feel shame if we need to have just honest conversations about AI generated content as writers, as editors, as people who are hiring new writers. We got to take the taboo out of it early, because I imagine this becoming a secret, I used AI to generate this content. Oh no, we're going to find out. But the fact is, it takes skill as a writer, as an editor, as an experienced person in content marketing to make AI generated content great. So we shouldn't be ashamed. We shouldn't be trying to hide it. We shouldn't be trying to, lie about it. It's not necessary, So writers out there, we don't have to be like this. We can just kind of we can find a way to make it work together.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to finish up this wonderful conversation, session, webinar, all that jazz, with a couple rapid fire questions, and then we'll close out, and you'll tell us where we can find you and how we can learn more about Workello, and then I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your day. Okay, so do you have a favorite podcast?
I have a few. I have to admit, I used to totally not be a podcast person until maybe a few months ago, and now I am. So obviously I really liked what you did with Emilia Korczynska. I hope I'm pronouncing her name. She's one of my favorite people. So really enjoyed that. I really enjoy Ben Goody's How the F. Okay. I think he's just really good as well. He's a good interviewer, so I really, really enjoy him. There's just a couple of random ones. I like true crime, so I listen to
true crime. Okay. No shame.
Judge me, but no shame. I feel no shame. So I really like those as well.
When it comes down to some type of apocalypse or emergency situation, you're going to be the one who knows how to figure things out. So
I'm going to have to run away.
Okay, awesome. What is your comfort food?
Oh, pasta. Oh my God. Anything pasta.
Okay.
I'm so sad that I can't eat it that much, but yeah. Every time I can, I'm just yes.
Okay, pasta comfort food. And what was the last book or article that you read that taught you something new?
So maybe this is going to sound a little bit silly, but I recently reread The Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
It's my favorite trilogy. It's the best. I know it's not business oriented.
Doesn't have to be.
But yeah, so it's full of, life lessons and everything. But kind of the most important thing for me now in the position that I'm in is just the importance of good leadership and not just being, fascinated too much by shiny things. Like this AI thing, you can't just run around and generate stuff with AI and be like, yes, I won. You kind of have to be smart about it, and you have to be the one to empower people and teach them how to actually use it. I just made Lord of the Rings sound not as cool as it was, but yeah, it was that.
Okay, wonderful. And is there a song that you have playing on repeat in your head at the moment?
Oh my God, I do. Let me just see exactly what the name is so I don't... It's The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd. It's a song that I heard so long ago, and recently, also this is embarrassing, but I heard it on a TikTok video. I'm like, oh my God, that thing exists. So I've just been playing it over and over again. It's so good.
Awesome. So if I were to sum up this conversation, I would basically say AI and content writers, there is a way for us to work together collaboratively. There's the potential to develop a new type of editor who can look through AI-generated content, figure out what needs to be, check out the red flags, the green flags, edit quickly, edit efficiently. When it comes down to creating a trend-proof process, the magic formula is not magic at all. It's simply writing things down and making sure that you don't think that anything is too small or too insignificant to write down. Because when you write things down, you're saving yourself time. You're being able to create an actual knowledge base that you can then focus on hiring quality people. You can focus on onboarding processes. You can focus on scaling and other aspects of the business, because you don't have to worry about constantly teaching the basics. And when you need to kind of reinforce that knowledge, you have a place to send them to where they can brush up on the basics. And it's equally as important when you're onboarding a new writer as it is when you're offboarding a writer as well. Compassion in both sides of the process is essential. And maybe this is just for my own knowledge, but teachers make the best editors. Teachers make great editors, yeah. Editors, writers, all of that jazz. That's amazing. Is there anything else you want to add? Can you tell us how we can find you, how we can keep up with Workello? You said you might be starting a hiring cycle soon. You're looking for new writers. Yeah. Tell me all the stuff.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, I have to thank you so much for having me here. And you're such a good listener. I actually can't believe that you remembered everything we talked about. That is incredible. Completely agree on the teachers. Where you can find me, I'm actually on LinkedIn. I have a weird name, but it's spelled, I think, right here. So it's Gordana Sretenovic 923. You can follow me there. Definitely check out workello.com. We publish a lot of content all the time, really for writers, for editors, for anyone. Really sign up, try it out. I think you're going to love it. And, since we're here today, we do have a special code for anyone who's listening. Use code SURFER for 20% off. And we can't wait to meet you. So you can definitely find us there. Of course, we're on Facebook. We do have a community. Actually, Mikael just did an AMA in our community recently. So we're very happy about that. It's called FedCraft Content Ops. So join us there. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, we have a YouTube channel. And I'm actually the one in charge of it now. So you get to see me a lot more. It's content distribution.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today and to talk to all of the people out here watching. The knowledge was shared so freely, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun, and I love everything that you guys are doing, so I'm rooting for you. And again, thanks so much for having me. I had a blast talking about everything.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.